Back to the Future is the 1980s and one-movie trilogy making $380 million and was the highest-grossing movie of 1985. But despite its success for nearly 40 years, many people might not know it had a lot of behind-the-scenes problems. First up, the main character, Marty McFly, wasn't going to be Marty McFly, where Michael J. Fox was the first pick for the role, but he couldn't do it because of his show Family Ties. So instead, they had to pick Eric Stoltz. And they started filming with Eric Stoltz as Marty, but production felt he wasn't the best pick for the role, so they fired him. So instead, they were able to work around Michael J. Fox's schedule with Family Ties, firing Eric Stoltz and then reshooting all the films they already shot with Eric. But another issue was about Claudia Wells, who played Marty's girlfriend Jennifer, who couldn't return due to her mom having cancer, and they replaced her with Elizabeth Shue, who's known for Karate Kid. And they actually had to reshoot the ending for Back to the Future 1 because that was going to be the beginning of Back to the Future 2. And Claudia Wells was happy for Elizabeth Shue, saying she was happy that she got the part and felt there was no animosity against her. But one relationship that went very sour was Crispin Glover, the actor who played George McFly, who ended up suing the studio over the movie. And problems started between Crispin Glover and the studio over the first movie, where he hated the ending. Where he didn't like the end of Back to the Future because he didn't like that Marty's family became wealthier and that was supposed to be a happy ending, saying it sent a bad message to children on what mattered in life. And Crispin Glover wanted the ending changed where the parents felt more love for each other. Instead of Marty being happy he got a new truck. And this put the relationship between Glover and the studio in a bad spot. But the movie was still a hit, made $380 million, so naturally the studio approved 2 sequels. But Crispin Glover, despite being loved for playing George McFly, was nowhere to be found, with producers saying he wanted $1 million to return. But Crispin Glover denied this, saying he didn't want $1 million to return, but just wanted more than the $125,000 he was offered to come back, saying it was the lowest salary of the cast and the actress who was cast to play his wife was paid twice as much money as he was. And Crispin Glover didn't return for the sequels and instead was replaced with Jeffrey Weissman, who was cast to be George McFly, and this is very common for movies to do with sequels. But where this got bad was what the studio decided to do with Crispin Glover, where they used makeup and a fake nose to make Jeffrey Weissman look like Crispin Glover. And this is why George McFly had a much smaller role in the sequels and even was killed off in the alternative timeline for 1985 and Back to the Future 2 by Biff. And it's also why his character was always shown wearing sunglasses throughout the movies. But this pissed off Crispin Glover, and rightfully so, saying the studio used prosthetics and makeup to pretend he was in the movie, and even his family and friends thought he was still in it. So in 1990, after the third and final movie, Crispin Glover sued the producers of the film, saying they used his image unfairly and he should be compensated for it. And the case was settled out of court, where Crispin Glover was given an untold amount of money. And Crispin Glover has since boycotted all relations to the Back to the Future franchise, refusing to see Michael J. Fox or go to any reunions. But Crispin Glover's lawsuit has changed Hollywood, because now studios can't just recreate actors for roles, with one example being Peter Cushing, who was brought back to life with deepfake technology to play Grand Moff Tarkin in Star Wars Rogue One. But Disney could only do it if they got approval from Peter Cushing's estate, and they did pay them to get use of his image. And that wouldn't have happened without the Crispin Glover lawsuit setting precedent for it. So one instance where the past changed the future and Crispin Glover changed the timeline forever, and with that, I'm Charles Peralo, this has been Backstage.